особое удовольствие представить следующего спикера, и представлять его весьма сложно. Это человек с обширным опытом в различных аспектах развития экосистемы. Он играет очень активную роль в ассоциации выпускников Калтеха, одного из лучших технологических вузов мира. Он построил несколько ангельских сетей в Калифорнии и имеет значительный опыт в работе с инвесторами. У него самого посевной фонд. Он более 50 лет работает в полупроводниках и работал с Дэвидом Паккардом и Биллом Хьюлеттом еще до моего рождения. Ему также повезло работать с Биллом Дрейпером. Так что человек с огромным опытом, и он согласился посетить нас один день из родной Калифорнии. Так что поприветствуем Джима Симмонса.
Спасибо. It's the only Russian word I know, so maybe one or two. So I wish my Russian was better, but I'm very pleased to be here. And so the talk I've been asked to give is on building a business angel network. And these are the areas that I'll cover. So talking about the introduction, trying to help improve the ecosystem, and my background is more in venture capital than angels, but first of all, I've run this presentation by a couple of friends, one in the Band of Angels and one in the Sandhill Angels in Silicon Valley, and those are very good angel groups. I've participated with a couple of other angel groups, and so I have been around it. I'm not a perfect expert, but I'll tell you what I found, and it may work here, it may not, but at least I've been informed of all. So, ecosystem overview. This is my shot at what the ecosystem and in the two people that I talked to, what it consists of, and it's pretty consistent with, I think, with what you've all seen. By the way, I should say, following a professor is very tough. He's a tough act to follow, and there's no way I'm as articulate as him, but I do agree with about everything he said. It's a very good presentation. Anyway, the ecosystem, you've got universities and research institutions, you've got corporations, for a lot of reasons are important, sources of funding, it goes from early to late. Friends and families, the earliest, business angels, venture capitalists, strategic investors, and then finally, you do an IPO, go to public. Those are the bigger outcomes, the public markets. And it turns out lawyers are pretty important in this also. In the Silicon Valley, there's a lot of lawyers that understand startups and their need for cash. Ours actually speaks Russian, and so they can be quite helpful in facilitating a lot of things, which is important for startups. So the value of an ecosystem, you need many sources at every stage, and the reason is early stage investing is very subjective. Most every venture capitalist misses multiple eventual hits, and I'm going to give an example here. This is a very famous example. There was a husband and wife team from Stanford. 74 U.S. venture capitalists passed. They said no to this team. No one else would invest except for this one guy, Don Valentine, founder of Sequoia Capital. He put $2.5 million in to get 30%. And that company IPO'd, and that was Cisco Systems. And it ended up being worth $500 billion. And 74 other VCs missed. And it's just very hard. It's just a very subjective business. That's the point of that story. And since we're taking some risks like that, we remind ourselves of those stories. Hope is important for startups. So here's another example, and some of you probably seen this, but the question is, who would have invested in this team? And this is 35 years ago. And the reason, of course, that one might add, they don't look exactly like they're going to become wealthy. They don't look that investable. And yet, let's see if I can do this right. This guy right there is Bill Gates. This is Microsoft. So when they first come in, they're just not, you can't totally be prepared for this. And this is why it's subjective. It's very hard, and we all miss. So that is an example. Now, so what we tell our CEOs is, when you're trying to get the next round of funding, because we're a smaller fund, we always need more funding from a larger fund. And if you haven't talked to 40 VCs, you haven't talked to enough because it's so subjective. And but what if you don't have an ecosystem? What if there's only one or two venture capitalists, in your area? that like your space. Then you have no ecosystem, and we actually are in that situation. So we're a seed fund, a small fund, and if you're a seed fund and you do a seed round in a startup and you believe in that company, you have to do not only the seed round but also the A, B, C, and D round, and it can be very painful and there's a lot of risk. And that's the value of the ecosystem. So, and why is that? Why is it that big companies? One of the big value creating events is to get the first big customer. And this is for enterprise startups, not consumer. I'm not a consumer guy. But an example of why it's so hard to get that first big customer is one of our startups was talking to an oil super major, and and they said, the oil super major said, there's 200 startups trying to solve this problem, you know, and we've tried many of them, and so far they're all liars. None of them are telling the truth. And each time the big company evaluates the startup, it takes about 6 months. You've got to do all this testing. So no wonder they're skeptical, very, very skeptical. So it's just a very hard process. So you've got to look at a lot of big customers too, because it's hard to find somebody, a big customer, a big company to take that risk. So I don't want to run out of time here. So the role and value of business angel networks, there's a number of things. One is that these business angels are high profile in their spaces, and they give their startups credibility for the next institutional round. And a prior investment by a business angel can encourage an early stage venture capitalist to take the risk of investing. And it also gives hope to venture capitalists that maybe a corporate or some others might eventually invest and globally deploy. And I think my next slide is about risk of startups. And could be a little controversial, but in the spirit of all our speakers, this is the truth that we understand. These are the risks of early stage venture capital that we understand. And the best data that I found is 22,000 Series A backed startups over 21 years. And it's by, as you can see down here, a former chief economist of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. She's a brilliant economist, very factual. And she found that 50% of the startups over that time frame lose all the capital, only 20% give a greater than 3x return. So we look at it as an 80% failure rate business. And this is over 21 years, so this is not, due to a social networking fad starting 3 years ago. This is, we think, the state of, this is just the way it is, and it's very difficult to change. So we assume it won't change. We assume we're going to lose 8 out of 10. And then just as a validation, Harvard Business School senior lecturer, he did a study on far fewer, but he found that it was 75%. Only 25% got more than 1x returns. So we look at it as we're going to lose 8 out of 10, and it's inevitable. And we don't like that, but it's a high-risk business. And so therefore, one thing is, each deal that you do should have the opportunity for a very big return. You've got to make up for that. So let's see. So here's an example of the value of business angel investment. This is a real company. I'm a little biased. This is a company we've invested and believe in. It's a water company, Water and Energy. And in 2003, it was founded with friends and family investment funding. In 2005, you'll notice that there were business angels that funded the Series A. And those people included this former vice president, head of the PC business at Hewlett Packard. He was a big dog. He was a big guy, and he knew the CEO, and he believed in him. He put real money in, and so and then the former managing director of Lehman Brothers, that was my partner, and then I was in there too. So we did that. In 2007 to 16, our firm funded Series B and C. We've done more than our share. The company's made some progress. Most particularly, they made progress very recently. Last week, they announced a very successful test at Southern California Edison, a very big utility in the LA area. But before that happened, by the way, I mean, we were kind of, this is a long time, but long time, but a retired senior energy executive invested, put serious money in. So this gave us a lot of confidence that we weren't the only guys who were putting money in, that there was hope here. And it looks now, there's discussion with multiple large vendors because we think we're on the cusp of something significant because we have now a big customer that's validated. There's a press release, there's a news story, all those things. So in the green, you'll see the business angels are very valuable. That's my point. On time. So steps in building a business angel network. These are the, you start with recruiting a few high-profile business leaders to be involved and lead the effort. And and other people will follow them. And then you do things like establish investment criteria, selection process, you have informal meetings, you do mentoring, for each startup you fund, you want to have somebody to mentor them, consider planning for follow-on investments. But the real starting is the most important. It's very important to get started with some high-profile people. Here's an example of investment criteria. Probably not a surprise. It's very similar to what a VC firm will do, and I've taken here our criteria with our VC firm. You've seen these things before. Large market opportunity is what you need to address the risks, and the team and the passion is very, very important. And then, there's a few other things, ultimate capital needed, length of sales cycle, everything to be consistent with your return goals. And then maybe a few differences. Some angel groups will accept a somewhat smaller market size if the ultimate capital needed is less and the valuation is less. That kind of reduces the risk. But those are sort of details, really. So, selection process, this came right from the Band of Angels. It's really the best group in Silicon Valley. They've been operating for over 20 years. They have a very good return rate. And they'll have a pre-screen committee, and out of 50 deals, 6 of them are selected to take the next step. And then they'll have after the presentation to the committee, then they'll select 3 to go to the monthly dinner. And then they'll help the entrepreneur to prepare for that dinner. And then the presentation occurs, and then, if enough members are interested, then they'll have a follow-up meeting, and then they'll negotiate terms and invest. So that's, and you have that here. That's a classic process, and it's worked. So problems that might occur. This hopefully is helpful. One of the problems is recruiting the first few successful business angels. And so, the reason it's a problem is that the ones you want are already financially independent. They don't need to do this just for money necessarily. It takes time. The Band of Angels in 1994, when they were started, they invited 25 senior executives to the first dinner, and half of them showed up. So that was, that's something. And then the other issue is that angels have to deal with entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs at times don't know what they don't know. Of course, if they did know all this stuff, they might not do a startup because they're taking a very, very high risk. So there's a lot of patience that's needed. It really is. There's several speakers have said this already. Motivation and passion and interest in entrepreneurship is very, very important. I don't know how you train for that. We believe that just comes from within. So, and then also, many losses occur after years, your first wins, and you may get diluted in the wins. So, our conclusion is you probably have to like doing this. You have to probably like working with startups. You're giving back, you're mentoring, you're helping entrepreneurs. That's what we do too. We do want to make a lot of money, but it's a long process. So we do enjoy the process very much. I mean, these entrepreneurs, they're shooting to change the world. I mean, what better thing to put your time into, really? So those are some of the problems. That's one of the problems. You just have to pursue. I don't have an obvious solution. It's like a lot of these things. We've got to get a few key people persuaded, somehow reach whatever they like. Maybe they want to get back, maybe about how people. I'm not sure, but that's one issue. Another one is organizing. The angel groups are going to see a whole lot of deals, and it's better to have that process actively managed. You don't want to be drowning in paperwork. So having a professional staff by angels paying fees can be very helpful. That's what the band does. They have an executive director. They manage all the logistics, so the angels can focus on the deals. A couple of other problems: maintaining enthusiasm over time. If you're going to wait 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years before you have a win, how do you maintain enthusiasm? And it can be challenging. Again, the leaders probably have to like the process, like mentoring. That certainly we do. Recruiting newly successful entrepreneurs as new members can help. They bring the latest knowledge of startups and spaces, and they get to learn about investing. In return, the members get to learn about the latest spaces. So professional staff helps. Try to have fun. That's important. It really is important. Ultimately, getting a few wins. How do we address that? You've got to use good selection criteria. You do want to mentor the entrepreneurs. Even the best ones can be surprised at how hard it is. One of ours is probably our best deal. And she now says if she'd have known how hard it was, she might not have done it. But she doesn't give up. That's very important. And sometimes entrepreneurs need hope. Hope is a very important thing. These things exist for years, basically on hope. And then also make high-level introductions to prospective customers and investors. Learn from mistakes or losses, because there's going to be a bunch of them. And then luck is involved. So that's our best shot based on these two angel moves. So the ecosystem is invaluable for innovation, and I think we've seen an example where business angel networks can make a difference between successful failure startups. The one that we're doing is absolutely, they were crucial. They are crucial. And criteria and process, it's an important guide. There's no one right answer, and what works there may not work here. Early stage investing is not easy. You need to have judgment and all these other things. But it is a great feeling to back these successful entrepreneurs that really do want to change the world. It's not much. It's mostly merit-based. There's definitely luck and so forth, but we like it. So that's what I'm saying.
Thank you, Jim. Do you want to take one question, or you want to take them, because you're in a session now right afterwards?
I'm happy to, whatever you guys...
Один вопрос есть у нас? My name is Nikolaj. I'm an entrepreneur, commercial entrepreneur. Thank you, sir, for a wonderful presentation. I like it very much. And the question is for you, and what are you investing in? And by the chance, will you invest in some Russian team or not, ever? And is there any reasons for not doing this?
We have, thank you very much for those kind words. We invest in unpopular spaces, wireless, semiconductor, materials, clean tech, Internet of Things. Internet of Things is somewhat popular, like hardware. Most of the US VCs are fixated on software. They saw the movie about Facebook, the social network, and they can't really evaluate hardware very well anymore. So we do invest in unpopular spaces. We like those spaces. We have not yet invested in a Russian deal, but that's certainly possible. We're not doing a lot of new deals now. We've got to take care of our existing deals, and we hope in a couple of years to raise another fund. And we would certainly look at it. After talking with a few friends here from GBA, some of the Russian startups, the talent comes here, and then some of them go to the U.S. And so we would absolutely take a look. We understand that there's a lot of great science and just a lot of great talent. So we would absolutely.
Thank you, Jim. Поблагодарим Джима. Джим еще будет в сессии в зале Brainbox на 91 этаже сейчас, так что можете продолжить.